This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks me what we know about each other.
Woo!
Friends, we go together. This is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer and all-around great gal, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess. Thanks.
You know, I mean, you earned it.
By just
Are we friends?
being great. Yeah.
House cleaning corner. We got a note from someone who listened to the show about saying I love you, wherein they said I had to pause the show and laugh when Joey said I love you to Jess, and Jess said, well, carrying on, or something to that effect. Which also made me laugh, and I grokked at the time. But Jessica,
Yeah.
you know, as we are wont to do, as I am wont to do, I get excited encountering new frameworks that I have not encountered. Classic.
So
this
classic.
guy loves a framework.
Really does.
And I sent you guys one recently. I was like, I wonder if there's a way to talk about this. Mostly just sharing because I knew like you and Aaron also birds of a feather. And I found this framework called the Johari Window. And I'll read from the top of the Wikipedia just as it'll explain it better than I can. The Johari Window is a technique designed to help people better understand their relationship with themselves and others. It was created by psychologists Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham in 1955 and is used primarily in self-help groups and corporate settings as a heuristic exercise. The framework is sort of a classic like 4-box to different axes. One is about things known to yourself, and one is about things known to others. And so sort of the combination of those things has a first box of like known to yourself, known to others. That's called the arena. Then it has things known to yourself but not known to others. That's called the facade. It has not known to self but known to others. That's blind spots that you might have. And then there's not known to others, not known to self. That's unknown unknowns. But I was thinking about it, and even as we sort of spoke about it ahead of time, one of the things that got me kind of excited about this was sort of reframing, which I don't even think is a novel idea. It was just maybe novel to me in the moment as I was thinking about it, of the value that our relationships have, not just in sort of positive feelings and things like that, but mutual self-discovery. And so I wanted to ask you, how are you using your relationships to discover yourself?
Well, feels like getting to know each other and talking is mainly the key takeaway. And it feels like that's sort of what this model is trying to get after too. Like the idea of the arena, this like open plane where you know a thing about yourself and others also know it, is so much easier than, at least it's an easier starting point to interact because everyone has equal information. It's the asymmetrical information side of things where you can imagine miscommunication happens, or assumptions about why a person's doing something, and then you're fighting. So I don't know, this feels pretty intuitive, but interesting as a way to sort of take a minute to, I don't know, digest and process what might be some of those things that you might know, but another person might not know about you, vice versa.
Yeah.
The acknowledgement of the unknownness is helpful.
Yeah, you had pulled up the original paper, I guess, that this framework, this model was presented with, and I think that idea of like when you're starting a relationship, the sort of arena is small. The mutual shared knowledge about each other, like known knowns for both of us, right? Like you've just met someone, you can only know so much. Time sort of will need to be present where I get to observe your behaviors, you get to observe mine. We tell each other something, we share. And that question of how does information travel through this framework, either things that, the facade, like I put on a presentation of some sort of being like, I'm this kind of friend or this kind of coworker, or, this is probably true, holds up in romantic relationships as well, of the way in which you want to present your idealized self. And at the same time, right, we spoke a bit about the idea of blind spots, of like things you can observe in my behaviors that are currently unknown to me, that I, can start to discover about myself as you discover them. But this idea of like sort of all information in a healthy relationship moving into the arena, right? Like I'm holding fewer secrets because I feel comfortable sharing them with you or telling you things about myself. The things that I have blind spots, if we have a healthy relationship, you're telling me about them in like a healthy, productive manner. And as we get to know each other more, things that are unknown to both of us can potentially move into either one of those other arenas, right? Like I become aware of something about myself and it moves into the facade zone, where then I can choose to share it with you or not, and vice versa. Neither of us know something about me, but it moves into a blind spot zone. You become aware of it through pattern recognition or like deeper understanding, and you can move it into the arena where I can become aware of it. Like that process of self-discovery and self-betterment through relationships is like really interesting to me.
Yeah, of course. Same. I mean, it's also like the pulling apart of a thing that you wouldn't know about someone just because you don't know them. And if you just spend some time with them or you just talk to them, you might find those things out, which is different than the way this pulls apart information, motivations, behaviors that we choose to keep to ourselves until we feel like we can trust somebody, or maybe because we can't find a comfort zone in sharing that with anybody, or maybe it's a thing that we don't even realize because no one has realized it either, and it's a thing that is unknown to all of us. But like those different sort of stage gates, as it were, of getting to know somebody, especially even in just a working context, is really cool. But this original publication from, I think this is
1955, I think.
I said 1955, but then the label here then says publication 1961. So it might have been originally the model might have been introduced in 55, but the thing that I'm referencing came up in a later Human Relations Training News journal.
Classic journal, one of my faves.
Classic, renowned by many today. And one of the other things that was interesting is there's a whole section of principles of change, understanding or picking apart some more of the laws of the dynamics in between those different stage gates. And maybe we should talk about those. This is the first time that I am revealing these to Joey, so
yeah,
we're going to have to figure these out. All right, maybe there are 12 of them, which is kind of a lot. So maybe we should take on just a few at a time. Let's do the first 4. So here are the first 4 principles of change. I don't know if they're in any particular order or not. Number 1, a change in any one quadrant will affect all other quadrants, which makes sense because if an amount of knowing is shifting, then somebody else's knowing is also shifting, or your own knowing is also shifting from awareness to whatever. Okay, number 2. It takes energy to hide, deny, or be blind to behavior which is involved in interaction. 3. Threat tends to decrease awareness. Mutual trust tends to increase awareness. And 4. Forced awareness, exposure, is undesirable and usually ineffective. Thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah, the number 4 one is making me think about. I had a conversation recently with someone about how to sort of work through different dynamics on a team or with a client. And one of the things that I'm realizing through the lens of this conversation is basically observing certain people's blind spots, not necessarily like negative blind spots, just things that I'm not sure that they are aware of or not, in terms of like what types of things motivate them or what types of things threaten them, and sort of trying to have the conversation with someone to like be aware of those things, because then it becomes helpful in how you present them information or how you sort of build like a team dynamic or something. And I think it was, a lot of it sat in that zone of like where someone's blind spot is. And to be able to go to someone and have a conversation and be like, hey, you do this thing and you don't notice, but it is like, that's a tough conversation. There's like a reason why I think within sort of like professional settings, you have like a review cycle like once a year, because in that moment, you're going to be contending with potential blind spots. Not even always negative. It's like, this is an area which you can grow if you want to hit the next level of your sort of professional development. And you can have a really positive review and still be confronted with blind spots. And that's why sometimes you can come away from a really positive review feeling kind of like emotionally fraught.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like there's 2 pieces of this. One is the like outing a thing about somebody to somebody else, which is like, how dare you? That was for me to decide if I wanted to share that. Like that was a thing that other people didn't know, but it was the facade thing. And now you have like torn my facade down for me. Not cool. And then there's the other piece of it, which is the tearing down the blind spot and being like, see, this is a you thing. And it reminds me of that meme, or was it a meme, or it was just like an internet post that got shared around of the, I don't like the way you see me is a valid reason to end a friendship.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how dare you put a mirror up to me like that when I did not want it to be put up?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wasn't even thinking about the fact, like you said, that some of the confrontation in a review can be things that you thought were in facade, but like it turns out actually it's in the arena, you just didn't know it, right? Like it's in the mutual understanding. Like, yeah, no, we all know that that's a thing that you do, and you're like, oh, I thought I was doing such a good job of like keeping this thing out of you.
I thought I was facading it, but actually I wasn't, but whatever. Yeah. Yeah, that is really brutal and rough. And I think speaks to that other piece of why quadrant 2, the blind spots quadrant, can be the most stubborn, because typically, as is cited in the studies, there are typically good quote unquote reasons of psychological nature that we blind ourselves to the things we feel are due. Like there's some underpinning reason of I'm ignoring that, or I'm choosing not to, it's like, I can't, if I face this, then insert other consequence.
Yeah, I have to have deeper conversations with myself or with my peers or whatever the sort of relational dynamic that this is relevant to is, or I'm going to have to do a lot of, like, that thing might just be hard and that's why you're leaving a blind spot. I mean, I think there are times that I've gone through like review cycles as an example where I'm like, oh man, I'm doing really great at this thing. And it's like, actually, you could be doing better at that thing. And you're like,
well,
Like some of the
Oh.
confrontation is like the blind spot is I've convinced myself that I've improved at something that I was working at more than I actually had,
Right.
you know?
It's
And you're like,
nice for you that you are attempting to do that, but other people do not feel that.
yeah.
Maybe the amount of effort you're putting in is not creating the output expected by other people.
Yeah, we're acknowledging your growth and also need you to keep growing. You know, like that type of thing.
Growth effort is not equal to outcome.
Yeah.
You tried is not you're doing it.
Yeah. What are the next set of laws?
Okay, round 2, the next 4. Interpersonal is principle 5. Interpersonal learning means a change has taken place so that quadrant 1, arena of openness, is larger and one or more of the other quadrants has grown smaller. So I think that's similar to a change in one quadrant will affect others, but I think the idea is more that you're getting to know people and they getting to know you. And obviously that affects the other ones.
And probably like knowledge can't move backwards. Like once you can't like put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, principle 6. Working with others is facilitated by a large enough area of free activity. That, what is it? 1? What is that? Quadrant 1? I'm not sure. Means more of the resources and skills in the membership can be applied to the task at hand. That mean...
So if you have a large enough surface area to increase the arena of openness through interactions, then membership as part of whatever group is like in that arena of openness can be more effective. Is that what it's saying? Or you can, by knowing, you can apply it to the task at hand. So that means maybe like you're good at X types of activities and I'm good at Y types of activities. So let's divvy towards our strengths or something. Yeah.
And the idea of area of free activity is another way to describe quadrant 1, the types of behaviors and motivations that are both known to you and to other people. So, right, it feels just like it's saying more tools in the toolkit. 7, the smaller the first quadrant, the poorer the communication. Understandable.
Yeah.
And 8, there is universal curiosity about unknown areas, but this is held in check by custom, social training, and by diverse fears.
So people are curious about the unknown unknowns, but moving something from that space is inhibited by whatever sort of cultural norms, mores, like social dynamics exist within the sort of arena where friendship or relationship is being built. So like what is corporate cultural norms or what are dating norms or, gender norms around friendship or something like that.
Right. There are many fences that we all either collectively agree on keeping up or that in combination with each other prevent the breaking down of those walls and barriers, even if it is the thing that we would be interested to know.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about it too, beyond just like, in this conversation, we talked a bunch about sort of professional context, but I saw a stand-up comedian, this woman joking about how her man's friendships are so weird to her. She's like, why are men constantly so vague about things? She's like, I was asking him a question about his friend, and she's like, I didn't even care. I was just talking. I was just being nosy. I was like, what does your friend do for work? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, what? She's like, you're talking to this man all the time. You've known him for like 15 years. You don't know what he does for work? And he's like, no, he likes the Lakers. I like the Lakers. That seemed like enough. We became friends. And it is that feels like a normative thing of like, I've seen lots of jokes of women being like, my friend went away on like a guy's trip for a weekend and he came back and I was like, how's your friend doing? I know that he had like a big breakup or got divorced. Did you find out anything about that? And he's like, no, we play golf. Like we were not having those conversations because the norm within that context is potentially like, you can't ask. Like, we're not going to move things from facade into the arena because we don't feel like it, or that doesn't feel comfortable, or whatever.
Right. Whether it's the, the thing you'd have to do, you'd be unwilling to accept whatever the consequence of doing that thing, even if the benefit is knowing the unknown. You're unwilling to do what it would take to do that, or even if you would be willing to put it out there, then the recognition that I did do that thing, and now what does that mean for the rest of our relationship? Because now I just asked a question and it's weird. I feel like it's all of the tropes of those movies of like the guy friend asking the girl if, hey, like maybe you want to go out sometime, and she's like, what? No, we don't. we're just friends. He's like, yeah, definitely. What?
Yeah, definitely.
About definitely. That was crazy.
There was, I saw a different comedian do this whole bit about like calling his like good friends and just being like, hey man, I just called you. I just, we hadn't spoken in a minute, and I just wanted to say sweet dreams. Good night.
Good night.
Don't let the bed bugs bite. And the friends are like, what? And like, they're getting upset. They're like, what's wrong with you? Do I like need to come over there? Are you okay? Like is something going on? Like, tell me what's wrong. Like,
right.
Do you need
Saying
help?
good night
What?
to your friends, not normal for everyone.
Yeah.
May inspire alarm.
And he just kept going through other friends, and they're all like having different sort of like freak out reactions. But that is, yeah. I think that one in particular feels like especially potent, like for us, like as a company, we've tried to sort of create a culture, I think, to reduce that one in particular where people can feel more comfortable talking about things. And, but there are still like lots of cultural norms of New York City or historical professional experience or like where you grew up, where like people come in with a lot of barriers up and you try to reduce them, but you're not getting to zero barriers, right? And maybe that was what like Radical Candor was trying to do, but most people were like, yeah, this sounds like you're just being an asshole,
Right. Although, but then that brings me back to the principles 2 and 3 of the whole, it takes energy to be blind to or hide or deny any of these things. And then also that threat tends to decrease awareness. That idea of like any of that tension makes you inclined to do maybe the opposite of the thing that you should do, which is maybe that's exactly when you should talk to someone or tell them the thing that you are bothered by.
Yeah, I mean, threat probably, I can imagine threat putting up both blind spots or facades. Like, everything's fine, nothing to see here. No,
right.
Like, everything's
definitely
great.
Good. What? Crazy. Okay, we should get to the last 4. Principle 9. Sensitivity means appreciating the covert aspects of behavior. In quadrants 2, blind spots, 3, facades, and 4, unknowns. And respecting the desire of others to keep them so. This is the, hey, don't be outing somebody, because that's the name of this game. Just because you know doesn't mean you spill those beans.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Precisely. 10. Learning about group processes as they are being experienced helps to increase awareness, larger quadrant 1, for the group as a whole, as well as for individual members. So break out those icebreakers, folks. It's about to get good. 11. The value system of a group and its membership may be noted in the way unknowns in the life of the group are confronted. Which also makes sense based on all the rules and fences and boundaries and norms. And last, 12. For a little story. A centipede may be perfectly happy without awareness, but after all, he restricts himself to crawling under rocks.
That is an interesting way to end these principles. What? An allegory as principle 12.
An allegory of the centipede?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, I guess, the centipede of one.
Yeah.
The self is the centipede.
Yeah, it is interesting fitting with all of this of like what is your sort of individual or cultural orientation around discovery, right? Like there are definitely cultures where like we don't talk about that. We don't talk about anything. This is like, we're just here to do X, Y, and Z thing, whether that's...
Or the opposite. Or the whole cultural norm is to directly confront or to out someone and judge them and shame them for it. Like the way you handle the unknown is actually, I think that one stuck out to me too. That is like the clearest way to describe a culture or define a cultural group.
Yeah, maybe within that Hofstede type of framework of like, power distance as one of the axes of how certain cultures emerge, right? Like low power distance means like inherently that even without authority, you are entitled to confront a thing that you think is not working correctly, or the intern can tell the CEO that they should change a policy about something, like that type of idea. And like where does that get built up versus like high power distance cultures? Like you can't say anything to the CEO until like you are their direct report, and even then you need to observe all of these like principles around how to introduce information to them. It's really interesting to think about like different cultural sort of like national cultural orientations around how business is conducted, for example, of like, is it a democratic decision-making process, or, does face come into a conversation to where even as part of the system, sometimes like facades are built as a group in certain like countries and how they approach these things of like, this person should be fired based on something that they did, but we're all going to agree that we're going to put up a facade here and say they got promoted laterally to a position where they have less responsibility and less direct reports, right? Like I've experienced that before in China, but I think many East Asian cultures that have an orientation around face within the context of like your subordinates directly contribute or retract from your sense of face and what face you're putting out into the world. So things like that happen where we're like, we're going to put up a facade and say they got promoted, but we all know that this is like a significant demotion.
Right. In that way, there are probably not only cultural norms around taking on unknowns, but also, the principle around sensitivity of how much do we value that in service of some other cultural value, and therefore respect the blinds, respect the facade, or let us, treat and interact with some of these areas of awareness differently, because that is the way.
Yeah, the sensitivity one I find really interesting because it's both, it sort of speaks a little bit both to like how sensitive are you to unknowns in any of these categories, unknown to both of us, to me, to you, but then also how sensitive are you in introducing unknowns into the arena, right? Of saying like, you didn't know this, here it is, or I didn't know this, here it is. And like, how do you navigate that in an appropriate way? Is it in a group setting? Is it an individual setting? Is it at a certain time? Like, have you created... Yeah.
I mean, even that idea of like the fact that it's called the arena, I'm like, there are definitely cultural groups that avoid the arena. You just, you know them. The families that avoid the arena. It's like, actually, we don't go to the arena. We don't need to go there.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about like comfort level with conflict sometimes, right? And sometimes the conflict is purely just introducing a thing into the arena that might sit
putting it all out there, right? That is basically the equivalent of this. And once it's all out there, now what?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about conflict in the ways that I've spoken about it before, simply as like we're not going to let this be a facade, or we're not going to let this be a blind spot, right? We're just moving information.
Yeah,
to
the confrontation
expose
is
it.
I moved it into the arena.
Yeah. We're not pretending about this anymore.
Oh.
Man, I don't know. There's more in here than I think I was expecting when I found this. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, interesting. Like maybe we could
What
talk.
a nice
It feels
2x2.
there's more layers in here than I was expecting.
Well, there's definitely more legs to the centipede analogy. Am I right?
Do you wanna bring us to our wrap up in a
that
ball
wasn't good enough for you.
millipede corner?
What do I have to share? End any open something. There's always more than we might expect. Assume there are more unknowns, and assume there are more centipedes.
Whatever you know, consider who else knows it.
Whoa. Is this like the Traitors on NBC style?
The what?
The Traitors. The game of asymmetric information. Anyway.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by window makers. We make them. It's harder than you think.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and master of whispers, Jess Vander.
Thanks. We'd also like to thank our sound engineer and 100 ears, Alex Contel.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and man with a secret, Les Jacobs. That sounds bad.
And thank you to our production crew and principals 13 through 18. Zara Gilbert, Nora Mestrich, Chrissy Jensen, Amanda Medina, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Len.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Secret Secrets Are No Fun. Secret Secrets Hurt Someone. But it turns out, apparently, talking about something that someone thinks is a secret but isn't also hurts someone. Turns out secrets complicated.
Secrets sometimes, watch it. Is it yours? Then keep it in the cup. Don't spill it.
This is like you pull up to like a intersection stoplight and someone's sitting there picking their nose in their car thinking they're all alone. They're thinking they're in facade land, but they're not.
Right.
Because windows, they're harder to make.
You're right. They're harder to make, and you see through them.
To see someone picking their nose. Well, it's a lot to think about.
Thank you. I enjoyed thinking about this. I will continue to think about it.
Well, love you, mean it. Bye.
Bye.